Welcome to the retreat and indeed to the studio, Ms. Roy.
Thank you.
Ma'am, what has been your experience at the retreat thus far?
Oh, I think it's wonderful. It's just, it's one, it's in Goa, and two, I think as a conference, I think it's really the topic, the power regulator. It's just something which is of interest to everybody. It's really having a good time.
That was quite an out-of-the-box idea when you came up with this idea to actually have an all-women's cab service.
That's right.
Tell us more about it.
It actually, like I mentioned yesterday in my speech, this started because the idea was ideated and conceptualized because it stems from a great passion for driving. And I always feel, and I felt and I still feel that if a passion or a hobby is converted to a business, then it really doesn't become work. It's not work. 90% of your job is done. So I used to have this, I used to get invited to a lot of parties and stuff because people used to tell me, oh, Aja. And I realized much later in life that, I was getting invited at around late, 11:30 at night, because it took me quite a while to realize that I was being invited there actually just to drop my drunken friends back home.
Okay.
And it was at that point of time I realized that, it's a thankless job. I mean, tomorrow morning nobody remembers that you went and dropped them because they're all drunk. And then I said, why can't I do this as a business? I mean, and why would I take guys? Let me do it for the girls because they also get drunk. I mean, they need to get dropped back home soon and safely. So I thought of converting that into a taxi service. I said, let me try it. And the minute I thought about it as a concept or as a business model, everything fell in place. I mean, I thought it could be, it can be done, and it is a great business model. Of course, I mean, the story is that it was not as easy like any other business, and this particularly more because two of the basic ingredients that one needs for starting this kind of a service, which is a vehicle and a driver, were both not available because vehicle not available because it needed funds, and women not available because there were no women commercial drivers. If you think of a taxi driver, even now, I mean, barring the few hundreds that I have, if you think of a taxi driver, you think of a male. I mean, the mindset is such that you think of a male. So when I started, there was really, there was not even one. I didn't even know that you need a different kind of license to drive a taxi. You need something called a TR license, which I was not even aware of. So one just jumped into this business. It grew. I mean, it kind of, we started off because since there was no driver, available from off the shelf to become a commercial driver, I drove as a taxi driver for 10 months and hired a vehicle, hired a tourist taxi and started. It grew from 1 to 2 to 4 to 6.
And you're 300 cabs?
No, we're about 120.
120 cabs.
Yeah.
So how does a woman in, say, Mumbai hire a cab driven by a woman?
See, I had started in 2007 under a brand name Forshi, which we sold at some point of time. We now run a service called Vira, VIIRA. So she has to just call up the call center number.
Right. And the
she
cab
gets
comes
a cab.
in.
It's like any other radio taxi.
Great.
Like you have so many radio taxi companies in the country now.
Great. Then why hasn't this wonderful concept really taken off? Why don't we see hundreds of these taxis in all metropolitan cities?
Two reasons. One, this business is a very high capex business. So it really needs deep pockets. I mean, you really need crores and crores of rupees to have with you to be able to run it without tension, Right. That's one. And two, mobilizing girls is not easy. Mobilizing these women is not easy. It's very difficult still. So I think we're reaching there. I mean, it's much. I mean, today we've created a completely new profession. We've created a completely new market of women taxi drivers. So, I get calls to say that, can I just get a woman driver? I mean, this is not something people asked 10 years back. So today they know that there are women taxi drivers can be available. You ask for a product only if you know that it's available. So here we've created that category, but now it's a question of scale. I think somewhere somebody will come and fund it.
In that case, does the government help you, for example, to overcome these initial, these teething problems, the capex problem, the fact that you're actually training drivers bottom up?
See, this is skilling for employability. This is financial inclusion. This is all of that capacity building. This is actually capacity building. But from the government, no. I mean, we've not got any support because also, what happens? it's very strange that if you're an NGO, you will get funding from a lot of institutions as a CSR or whatever. But if you're not an NGO, you're a for-profit doing the same thing, whether we are not making profits. But if you are, you don't get any funding. I've been fighting this battle for the last 7 years. That why should I become an NGO just to take funds? I mean, why should I get into that category? I'm a for-profit. You fund the training. I've been telling corporates, I've been telling PSUs, I've been telling all of them that you fund the training of the girls. No, we are not free. We charge. Because we are not an NGO, so we don't get funds from anywhere. Whatever money we have is part and parcel of whatever is being earned in the business.
They say women are bad drivers. What do you have to say to that?
I think it has nothing to do with gender. It's a skill. You either have it or you don't have it. I mean, so I don't think it's gender based.
Great. How do you train your women drivers?
See, the immediate thing that we had to do was we had to set up a training institute, because like I mentioned earlier, there was nothing off the shelf. Meaning, today if you want to start a taxi service with male drivers, all you have to do is poach.
Right.
You can just go into the market and give them 500 rupees more and they'll come to you.
Right.
But we did not have the luxury of doing that. So if we wanted to create 5 drivers, we had to train 15 or 20 maybe, and then 5 would graduate into becoming good drivers. And then prior to that, you also had the difficulty of people accepting this commercial driving profession as a profession in the families. Today, if you really want to, educated families, or people, for example, people who've come for the retreat, I doubt if they would allow any of their daughters to become drivers. So, a KPO job, a BPO call center job is far more accepted in the society rather than a driver's job. So we had to really go to the lower end of the spectrum. We had to go to the economically backward sections where you get your male drivers from, and then convince their daughters, their families, their mothers, sisters, daughters to say that you come and learn from us.
Right.
So to train the first 10 drivers or 15 drivers, it took me 2 years. Right. Because if you had to get 10 drivers on the road, right. Also you must understand that we're dealing with a section of society which probably has never even sat in a car, leave aside driving. They wouldn't even sit on a bicycle. So they're from the below poverty line with the income levels of 4,000 rupees per month for the entire family. So for that to transition into something where people started coming to us saying that we want to learn, it took us so long.
So there was a double benefit here. You were empowering women, and that too at the end of the spectrum where demographically they're so poor off,
yes,
that they could never make this jump on their own.
Absolutely.
Unless you help them. That's interesting, but how much money could a woman working normal duty hours make in a month?
See, we do the good part about our businesses, ours meaning our own business of women taxi drivers, we decided that these girls would be employed with us. We didn't want them on a contractual basis because it has no security, and we do feel that every woman who works needs to have maternity leave, needs to have other kinds, sick leave. She needs to have all that, because if there's anything that's happening in the family, it's always a woman who gets affected first. If there's some illness in the family, it's the woman who takes leave. It's not the man who takes leave.
Right.
So we decided that they should be employed with us. So now that we're employing these women, they obviously have to go on a semi-skilled minimum wages category, which is about 8,700. That's the minimum wages category, so which people don't adhere to. So we've kept all laws in place, and we're following the laws as required.
That's a pretty good salary.
So 8,700 less PF,
right,
and whatever TDS, not TDS is not applicable. And then we give them incentives for every kilometer they drive.
Right.
So there's a slab. If you drive for 500 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers, 1,500 plus, there's a slab. Over and above that, any girl who works at night gets a night allowance of 100 rupees per day.
Right.
So in effect, if these girls really work 26 days a month, they take back home at least 14 to 15,000 rupees, which we are actually, if you translate it into a societal change, then we are talking of getting so many families out of BPL.
Absolutely.
Which I think is really the job of the government. And they're doing it in their own way, but we are also doing it in a very small way.
Right. So is this service more expensive than, say, a normal regular taxi
We
service?
regulated.
or just like the others?
We regulate it like the others. The STA regulates us.
And
So we have no choice. I mean, if I had a choice, I would have loved to charge 50 rupees a kilometer.
Right.
But we are completely regulated.
What do you think is the way forward for women's empowerment?
Yeah. I work on a mega empowerment project now. I work with Sakar, the paper, and I head one of their mega women's empowerment projects called Tanishka. We're doing very interesting things. This is exactly in answer to what you're asking me. How do women do it? Now, how can it be done? Because we're talking of a 50% population, you know. In Maharashtra alone, we're talking of 5 crore population of women. I mean, here, and I was talking of empowering a few thousand women only. So here I'm saying that we want to touch the lives of 25 million women in the next 3 to 4 years in the project that I'm doing now. What we're doing here is very simple. The election seats, for example, are 50% women. The reservation of 50% women seats for, you know. Now, in rural areas especially, what people do is they get, if there's a seat, they're going to contest, and it's reserved for a woman, then they will put anybody from the family.
Right.
You know, they'll put a mother, they'll put a sister, they'll put a bhabi, they'll put a wife, they'll put anybody.
Right.
Gets elected. She can do nothing because she really doesn't know. So the man is running the show because he is the politician in the house. So what we decided at Tanishka is that we said that fine, this is, we're not going to stop that. That's going to happen. So let us do the other thing that we can do. Let us train these women to run their gram panchayats and panchayat samitis and zilla parishads. So that's a better thing to do because now that they're in place, I mean, it's so relevant because exactly to the answer to what you're saying, that how can we empower them? This is what we're doing. We're training them to run their gram panchayats, panchayat samitis or constituencies. She suddenly realizes that, you know, the road outside my house is very bad. And I think there's money which I can take from the government to actually repair the roads of my own village. So what we have done is that we are empowering them to take them through a path which will get them this kind of knowledge to actually run their constituencies. And this, you know, the number here is amazing. I mean, you know, that we want to go really great numbers. 125,000 women elected representatives are there. So this is just our way of, you know, empowering every woman. And so what happens in this? There is, if these 125,000 women are empowered, now you agree with me that everybody has a skill.
Sure.
It could be anything. It could be making 100 chapatis in 1 hour.
Absolutely.
I mean, it could be it could be making 25 bottles of pickles in 1 hour. It could be anything, you know. So what we are saying is that we will give you a marketing platform at Tanishka to trade in these things.
Right. So you're going to have 100 different kinds of lijjat.
You see, a person from an urban household is connected to net marketing, to e-marketing. You know, he's buying things on Flipkart, he's buying things on, you know, Fab Furnish, a whole lot of things. Here we are saying that let us provide this platform to the rural women. So we'll create an e-marketing platform for you.
Right.
Tomorrow, if there is somebody who says that I make groundnut chutney, you know, we put up the data on the Tanishka this thing, and if there are, we start telling them what all is available, exactly like what Flipkart or anybody else does. These products are available.
Right.
So by doing this, we're actually empowering them financially.
Right. So are you going to have standardized products, some way of training them?
Let us see. It's evolving.
Okay.
It's evolving. We launched it only on the 11th of April.
Okay.
But this is only across Maharashtra. It's rural Maharashtra, urban Maharashtra, everything. So I think this is how we can see a vision of empowering 2.5, 3, 5 crore women through this methodology.